Recording live from the E. Haley Memorial Studios, straight out of Elmont, Ontario, it's time for This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, your one and only weekly Warmahordes news broadcast. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday night, the beers are cold, the news is fresh, and the death clock starts now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Death Clock. It is Wednesday night. It's pretty sweet to have us all back in one room. We've been on the road traveling. I think Bubba's going to end up being super loud when he talks the first time because you just brought up the volume on the old internal speakers. We'll see how that goes. We have a cool episode tonight. It's been a while since we had Bubba on. Thank you for joining us once again, Bubba. You've been working hard and haven't had enough time to play all the War Machines ever. Did you get any games in recently? And tell us how they went.
Yeah, I played some games. Am I really loud?
Yeah,
it's horrible.
You're perfect.
Oh God, it's horrible. Loud noises. Yeah. So we did the WTC training camp this past weekend. So I got 5 games in while I was up there. Not as many as I wanted, but not bad for a day and a half where most people were in a coma the most of the time I was there. So yeah, 5 games. I played Signar, Rhett, Scorn, other shit I can't remember. I don't know. It's all good.
You played factions.
Yeah, I played Khador. I shot things with rockets.
We're going to talk a bit about some of the training that you've been doing for the WTC in just a bit. But before we do that, I'm going to go to my 2 co-hostesses with the mostesses. First, let's start with PG Semi-Automagic George Schweitzer. Tell us a bit about your week in War Machine.
Well, the big thing this week was the Champions format tournament that we did here in town. I went 2-2, so not too bad. I played 2 of the Hard 7 guys. So if you speak French and listen to the Hard 7 cast, you can find out how my games against Alexandre and Philippe went. Mm-hmm. Alexandre was he was new back into War Machine.
Right.
He's been away for a while, and I did manage to clock him. He was doing pretty well. And then Philippe and I played the Grimkin Mirror match.
Are you playing Philippe Poupard?
Yeah.
I love Philippe Poupard.
In round 2.
The king of salt.
He is salty. And we both learned a lot about Grimkin that day. Because we both picked it up, and it's been out for 2 weeks, so we were both doing different things wrong. So we managed to clear each other up.
You guys were both reading your cards
incorrectly.
Yeah.
Yep. And we managed to get that stuff cleaned up, and he did take me down, and then I played against
to the Paradise City
where the grass is green and the girls are pretty.
Oh my God. And then I managed to, if you're going to talk like that, kick his ass. Somebody decided that what the best way to do was move your caster within trample distance of one of my beasts, and then make sure there's nothing anywhere near your caster that would block a land zone.
What an idiot. Who would do that?
Yeah. So we'll find out who would do that once you ask Jason.
I think the one thing that one giant mistake we've made with George was doing like weeks where we did nothing but focus on power attacks. Because since then, that's all he does. Is like,
trample.
You forgot about power attacks. Bloop, you're dead.
Yeah. Oh, you can't block
or throws. I like throwing jacks
a landing zone in front of your caster.
Yeah.
Oh, you're fucked.
Super awesome.
Kodiaks are my favorite model for that.
Jason, you managed to get to a tournament, which you haven't done in a while. How did you do? And
I did okay.
Yeah.
My first game was against Matt McSummers, McSpring, McWinter.
I don't even know that guy's name.
Some Matt guy. He was playing the Heretic.
And here he's okay.
Yeah, he was all right. I mean, I was playing Dark Host.
He did wonders for your strength of schedule.
Yeah, he did.
Since he won the tournament.
Yep. He won the tournament, but I had the Heretic down to 1 box.
Ooh, it would have been nice to crush that dream.
If my die had rolled a 4 instead of a 3, I would have lived the dream, but that was not to be. Then I had to play Alid, who was playing Legion, which was going to be a very tough matchup for me because
you're like, I remember those models.
He had
remember
double Raptors and Callus 2, and I'm like, Banes can't hit Raptors. That's not going to be good for me at all. So what I did was just I jumped a stalker into Callus and just killed him because that seemed the easiest way to do it. And then I had to play George, and he just trampled me because I blocked off. I have a terrible problem with unpacking my army.
Yes. Yeah.
And I tend to block things in, which I did against George, and I couldn't get anything over to block a landing zone in front of my caster.
Well, to be
and then
fair,
he just trampled Skin
you
and
set
Bones
up
right to him.
entirely across the board. I set up across for
Yeah.
you, and then just ran everything to the
Towards-
right.
yeah.
and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
now a bunch of my shit is nowhere near you.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty bad, honestly.
Well, I was away, so I haven't had a single game in. And I tried to play on Monday, but then it was a holiday, and I hadn't been at home for a week, so I figured it was best to stay at home. So unfortunately, I have no stories to regale you guys with. Let's go straight to this week's news, ladies and gentlemen. There's the biggest news, really, is that all the themes apparently
Yes.
will drop by September, or in
Yeah.
September? In September or
In
by
September.
In
In
September.
not by September.
And there's a wild variety of suppositions on how many themes that will be, but it's supposed to be the ones that they're saying everybody will have. Every single model in the game will be able to fit into a theme somewhere. So there's anybody saying like from 6 themes per faction to 2 or 3 per faction, but there's some excitement out there as to the themes. Everybody getting theme machine is a thing.
Yep. Well, it's been a thing for a while. They've publicly stated that many times, and we're just sort of seeing the fruition of it. My guess is we're going to see 5 themes per real faction, and then micro factions will get 2. Probably Convergence will get 2. Grimkin already has 2.
So, are these going to be all the themes for Mark III?
No.
Okay.
It will be all the currently planned themes.
Okay.
So that doesn't necessarily mean it will be all the themes. It will just be
Yeah.
the massive amount of them.
And they're still saying the new No Quarters will come out with a new theme every month. So there's still the plan for the long term that there could be more themes. And they're also saying that these themes aren't necessarily in CID yet.
Yes.
That will get CID'd down the road.
Yeah. So what they're doing is basically they're like, fuck
Here's
it.
your
You
themes.
people, you're bitching and complaining that nobody has the themes they want. So it's just, fuck it. We'll release all the themes, whether they're ready or not. And you guys can play with broken shit because you're a bunch of whiny babies.
Which is a terrible fucking idea.
Yeah. And then...
Because there will be
We'll put them through CID.
There'll be a couple themes that are absolutely broken as shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll bet you more than a few themes that are absolutely trash unplayable.
Yep.
That no one will play ever. And it'll be like, and then everyone will go, thanks, PP. And it's like, well, it's their fucking fault. Yeah, idiots.
Yeah. Fortunately, at least we do know they will be going through CID eventually.
Yeah, and they may take some. Probably the ones that are broken as shit will go through first. And
Yeah.
Anyway.
And word on the street, based on what Pagani posted, is that they'll likely come out the last week of September because somebody cried. I can't remember exactly the conversation. Somebody cried on Twitter about WTC and all that shit, and how like the themes will be out, but the list lock will already have happened, so like they can't play these themes. Blah 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 blah. Pagani's like, don't worry, like we thought about WTC, so I think it might be the last week of September.
Well, at least they thought about WTC this time, and not
It only took 4 years.
Yeah. So the big thing is that same announcement came basically an overview
As
of
part
what,
of the Insider.
as part of the Insider, what the new Khador theme is going to be like. I mean, I'm just going to throw it straight to Bubba because we can't really comment on it. Bubba has a better idea. Tell us a bit about that Khador theme and your thoughts on it, Mr. King of the North.
It's a literal dumpster fire.
So what's in the dumpster?
So in the dumpster is Greylord models and units, and Doom Reavers. All Greylords in Khador right now are currently overcosted and die like wet pieces of paper. Greylord Turnian specifically are 7 points for 3 models at 1 wound each. Armor 13, def 13, armor 13, maybe armor 14. Like they're garbage. They're like every faction has like a standard 3-man unit that's not character. But those usually have 5 wounds, like tack or something like that. Well, not tack anymore, but and Greylord Turnian have 1 fucking unit, so they're shit. And then Doom Reavers, which needed to be adjusted at the end of Mark II, and they probably got adjusted a little too hard. They're now 13 points for 6 models, again, very, very pricey. While they're still quite good in terms of actual ability, paying that many points for them reduces their effectiveness. And then things like Greylord Outriders, the Cav, again, they're actually pretty good stat-wise and stuff. They're 20 points. It's a lot of points to be investing, and in comparison to a lot of other things in Khador, they're just not going to cut it. So while I think maybe down the road, if that Theme Force gets CID'd, it could look really good because they make things a little cheaper, maybe buff an ability here or there. But there is a really cool interaction that people are going to see once Old Witch 2 comes out that'll make people cry. I don't know if I want to tell people yet. It's pretty hilarious. David Beauchamp's face when I told him was like tears of joy.
So, did they say anything about what you get if you hinder yourself with all these really expensive models?
Oh, right. So standard, take 20 points of Greylords or Doomreavers, and you get a free smaller medium-based solo.
They're coming for you, Bubba.
Yeah, the small town of Fergus, the cops. You get a smaller medium-based solo for free, or a command attachment, which currently is quite limiting, as there are no attachments for Greylord units in Khador. Although, like, a 10-man Greylord unit would be cool. So you can, the only command attachment you can take is the one for Doomreavers, and then the solos you can take would be Forge Seers, Colden Lords, and that's it. My God, that is not a lot of shit.
Yeah.
The course expectation is a lot of this stuff is it's being built for things that are not released yet, as well as the suppositions. So,
and then the other thing is, there's two more things. You get Apparition on one unit, and you get to choose a different unit at the start of every turn. So people are like, well, Apparating Doomreavers. I'm like, yeah, that's cute, but it's not, like, it's only one unit, so it's not super great. Like a Legion theme has it now, Children of the Dragon or some shit. And it's like, it's cute more than anything. It's not going to win you a game. And then you get free upkeeps at the start of the game. Again, a little cool thing. Super bad for Doomreavers because they have Spell Ward, which I'm quickly learning Spell Ward is one of the worst rules in the game. Like,
you just don't like it on a model?
Yeah, I just, like, why not just give things Sacred Ward?
Fair enough. Okay, so the last thing, of course, is the Troll CID ended since our last cast.
Yep.
Troll players seem pretty happy about the whole thing overall.
Yeah, well, they got a bunch of things that they've always wanted. They got a Reach Heavy, which has always been one of those.
Got some things that they got to test out some things that they've always wanted.
Well, they definitely have built a model for a large based troll with reach weapons.
Yep.
And the art for that looks amazing.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure that that's coming out. What its stats are, maybe don't know. But in testing, Mulg was pretty good. Madrak 1 was pretty good. So there's a lot of stuff. And we've seen that things coming out of CID are pretty close.
Pretty close. Well, and whatever things were a little bit crazy in testing generally get tweaked back a little bit, and things that were still a little bit bumpkiss in testing get pushed forward a little bit.
Yeah.
They've done a good job at finding the middle ground on most of the testing, which is good.
I've actually been quite happy that the things that seem to be caught by CID are being taken care of. Like, PP's going like, oh yeah, we totally didn't think of that. And yet there's still, the developers do seem to still be doing something.
Yep.
There's a lot of people worried that stuff that went into CID would just come out of CID exactly the same as the end of CID. And that hasn't been true.
Pretty rare.
Yeah.
Pretty rare. I agree. I think trolls are looking pretty good. Mulg and champions and stuff like that. Also, just the aesthetics that trolls are going into, like the design faction looking really good. I think trolls are on the up and up. Even I'm kind of like, maybe after WTC War Machine weekend kind of thing, I'll pick up trolls again. They look really good. But just talking specifically about CID and those releases, like, just to parlay a little really quickly, do you feel that, like, the crying in the meta that's kind of happening is affecting things a little more than it should?
I think I did. We've talked a bit about this on the show in the past, that basically CID is being pushed and driven a lot by crying. Like by crying is a hard term, but by basically the complaints.
It's the squeaky wheel problem.
The squeaky wheel problem. But I'm finding in the last couple of months, since we really started campaigning for, play games, ignore CID unless you are actively testing. I'm finding that starting to tune back a little bit. I think if you're still really active in the CID, it might seem that is the truth, because that's what's going on in CID. But I'm not feeling as pressured by it anymore. Maybe that's just because of CID burnout or whatever you want to call it. But that's my feelings. George, what do you think?
I have specifically been staying away from CID, actually. Now, I do think that the squeaky wheel is always going to get the grease, just because they're the people. You can't design for what people don't tell you. I work in IT, and I have a large problem with walking up to a computer and it's falling apart and there's crap everywhere, and they're like, well, it's always been like this. Well, if you don't say anything, nothing gets fixed. And the same thing holds true of things like CID. I think it is PP's job to make sure that doesn't go too far. And so far, the stuff that has actually released has seemed to be okay to me.
How do you feel about it, Jason? Do you have any comments on that, or are you?
Tim made a comment that he doesn't. That I agree with. He mentioned that unfounded complaints typically don't get any kind of attention at PP, and I think that's probably the case. There is a lot of complaints headed that way. I mean, if they had to listen to all the bitching that was involved, then, I mean, they probably know. They're not stupid. They know which things work and which kind of don't. So they probably listen to those people that back up that evidence and probably
the backing up the evidence is probably the main thing, because I think that they've stated it several times, like, we're really not going to pay attention unless you back it up.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Bubba, you asked the question, so let's bring it back around to you. How do you feel about it?
Similar to George, I actually pay zero attention to CID. Basically, they post that like first one, and I'm like, oh, cool, that's cool. And then I never pay attention to it again. They'll be like, here's the first troll CID. I'll read the whole thing. And then they'll be like, update, and I won't read any of the updates. I just really don't care. Like, I think War Machine has problems, and I think PP is trying to fix them, and that's fine. I just play the game as it is for what it is. There's nothing you can, like, Ghost Fleet's a problem, but they're like, well, you guys can figure it out, and models will be releasing that will help with that. Okay, cool.
Well, and that I think is the game we need to go back to. I mean, to go all around this circle once again, the game that I want to go back to, the game that the War Machine I love, is having some broken things that may get fixed down the road, but doesn't need to be fixed immediately. I need to learn how to deal with those things as best I can. And that's the game I loved. That was the strategy. Sometimes you play some broken lists. Sometimes Ostrom exists. Sometimes Ghost Fleet exists. Haley 2, yeah.
Mark 2, that was
still exists.
It still exists.
George, that's a different don't now.
All right, talking about getting good and dealing with stuff like
Tim
that.
Tim said I wasn't allowed to say that.
Oh yeah, right. I'm not allowed to say getting good.
Get good.
Talking about how you deal with these things. Let's talk about some of the broken lists. And to do that, we're going to talk a bit about how our Canadian WTC team is practicing right now. Bubba, you guys are sort of getting full-fledged right now, getting ready for the WTC as the lead-up happens. Let's talk a bit about you mentioned it a bit on the pre-show. Let's get you to talk a bit about it again. You guys went on a retreat this weekend. What were you guys focusing on to get to practice and prepare yourself for your opponents?
So what we wanted to do is get ourselves into an environment where we could all a large group of highly competitive players could be together in a place that we would sleep and eat and all that stuff and just play games. Until we were tired of playing games, and then we would do other things. So it wasn't like where you go to a con and there's a lot of distractions, friends, going out, doing other things, blah, 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 where you'll play a lot of games in theory, and then you're like, oh, I went to this con. How was that for 3 days? Well, I played 5 games. And it's like, oh, well, like, you could have played like 25 games if you really wanted to just play games. So we wanted to put ourselves into that mindset. So we rented a cottage in the Muskokas, up in Aurelia, and we are down in Aurelia for you guys. We were going to stay Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday was the holiday for a lot of people. I unfortunately could only do Friday, Saturday. Some other people had some weird things, but in total there was 11 players there, 9 WTC players, and then 2 people that we asked to come to fill. So we just had some more people, so that everyone could be playing, and like then somebody could be like cooking or doing whatever, cleaning up our fucking mess.
So 2
Like
people, 2 servants, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Mine must have went to my spam box.
Yeah.
My invitation.
So it was super awesome. The cottage was great, but the mindset behind it was get up there, play the games, play against, and these are all competitive players, so they're playing the good lists anyway. So there's Ghost Fleet there, there's Khador there, there's Osram there, all that kind of stuff. So it was like play against the good lists, and it's a free environment to tweak, to just be like, okay, we just played this matchup, didn't go well after turn 3. Okay, let's just stop this game. We don't have to finish it. We'll re-rack it. I'm going to try a different strategy. I'm going to change out a model or 2. Maybe I think this would work a little better, right? We'll min this unit, and we'll bring in this solo or that kind of thing. So it's just a really good environment to do that kind of thing. And it's also really good because there's a lot of other really great players there that can give you that feedback. And like, we're all there to help each other. It's not like at a con where you're like, well, I know what's a little bit better, but I don't want you to beat me, so I'm not going to tell you until after we're done. It's like, I'm going to tell you right now because we're all trying to help each other for WTC. Because while we're technically different teams, we're all Team Canada. So we just want to make it good. So everyone just played a shit ton of games and tried to narrow down their list, because list lock is in... what's today? The 9th. It's on the 26th, I believe, or 27th. That weekend, the Sunday of that weekend. So like 3 weeks, not even. Less than that, yeah, 2.5 weeks. So we're just trying to figure all that out. And then once you're list locked, that's when you can just play those 2 lists until you go blind.
So we've talked a bit about this in previous shows, and we talked about the WTC, but I would like to get your input on this. What's the difference between when you're preparing for a team tournament versus how you do your when you normally practice for tournament play? Is there a different, like in your list setup and that kind of stuff? What is your preparation?
So in general, when you're going to a steamroller, you're worried about everything, right? And while it's nearly impossible to cover everything in the game with 2 lists, you try your absolute best. Maybe making a lot of matchups a little more mediocre rather than having like peaks and valleys. Whereas in a team environment, you can be like, I have a hard dodge. And like that could be an entire faction. Like, I don't want to play Khador, for instance, as say a Legion player, right? They don't want to play Khador. Or a Khador player is like, well, if I am going to dodge Crix / Ghost Fleet, I don't need to take this caster. I could just focus on everything else and be super, super strong into the rest of the field minus Ghost Fleet. And then at the WTC, you're like, okay, the list pairing process, just don't put me into Ghost Fleet, guys, and I'm going to give you a really, really strong matchup into almost anything else. So in a steamroller, it's well, you can still do that and hope to dodge Khador or Ghost Fleet or Osram or whatever. At WTC, it's a little easier just because of how the pairings work. You're doing different pairings every round. So a lot of, almost every country will do the strategy of, I'm going to try to find one hard dodge and build my pairing to focus on the rest of those things. And that'll make you a stronger player into all those other things, assuming you can avoid the one boogeyman to you personally. And every player, you don't build a team that's like everyone's scared of Ghost Fleet. You're like one guy, maybe 2 are scared of Ghost Fleet, and 3 people have a good matchup into it because they brought that list.
Awesome. So when you guys are doing that kind of prep, are you specifically thinking about the other teams? Like, is there a team that you're worried about, or is it just specifically lists that you're sort of teching against?
It's impossible to tech against teams because you have no idea what they're playing. You might have a vague understanding, like, I'm friends with Konrad Szosinski from Poland. I know that Conrad plays Crix. He played Crix when Crix was bad. So like it's on all likelihood he's going to play Crix. So you can know that, but you don't know what he's playing. Europe is very, very different from North America in terms of what they play. Like in Mark II, they were playing Cav when we weren't playing Cav. Right now, Europe is basically Signar and Crix. The Iron Moot that just happened last weekend, the top 16 of Masters was 6 Signar, 5 Crix.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then 5 other shitbags. Like, you're like, if you went to that tournament with your 2-list pairing and were like, I need to dodge one of those factions, well, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're dead. Yeah.
So it's impossible to tech against that because you don't know what people are playing and somebody could be like, oh, I'm going to pick up Grimkin. And like their locals might know that, but you're not going to talk to the local Polish, community.
Yeah, exactly.
Nor are they going to tell you.
Yeah.
So you try to tech against the things that are strong. You're like, okay, obviously Haley 2 is going to be there. Ghost Fleet's going to be there. Khador or Jack Spam's going to be there. That kind of stuff. Legion Flying Beasts is a really good list right now. That kind of stuff. So that's what you prepare for, and it's kind of a crapshoot. It really is. It's kind of weird like that. You're like, you put all this prep and practice in, and then you submit your lists, and then they, in a couple weeks they poop out all the lists for all the 320 players, and you're like, all right, cool, that was good, and then or you could be like, well, shit, we fucked up.
Was there any thought at all? We've heard of weird like mono teams and stuff like that. Is there ever been any thought of that, or does that just cripple you too bad?
Well, it happened in Ireland. There was a team. Sweden did all Crix. I think it could happen this year, and I think there could be an all Khador team. I think that would be a pretty strong play. Khador's caster bench is just ridiculously deep. I'd be surprised if there was... The only other factions I could think of that somebody would try it would be Signar or Crix, just with how strong the Crix teams are right now. But I would find it quite rare. I could see a team of like half and half maybe. You go like 2 Signar, 3 Khador or something. That could be pretty strong. I'd be pretty surprised though. It didn't work out for the Swedes when they did it. Let's put it that way.
Jason,
because you're probably not putting players on their best faction. Like there's probably not going to be 5 Khador players like that. So
yeah, exactly. It's not like you have 5 guys who are like, this is my faction, and you just happen to put them together.
So I'm curious. Tim mentioned on the board, if people are reading what's going on the chat right now, that Bubba helped out his team with their positioning game.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of curious as to, like, when you're giving feedback on positioning, Bubba, what kind of general feedback are you giving when you're helping out some of your other WTC players as far as positioning advice?
So in general, like I'll play, like say I'm playing like a pikeman spam or something, and they just need to keep me from getting in, hitting and repoing back and being in feet and stuff, like, and staying out of their charges. So like I played a game against Josh, who's testing out a Menoff list that he wanted to play, and he just was constantly trying to be overly aggressive with his caster, so that like he was getting a lot of work done, and then like putting guys in front of me that I could clear, and then because I moved through my own guys, like my Ulans would charge his caster and kill him. So we kind of like worked through that. Like we'd finish the game and be like, or he'd finish his turn. Like it could be mid game, and I'm like, well, I'm not just gonna go for like, I'll kill you if you want, but like we can move these models around a little bit and be like, instead of doing this, you did this. Like I remember he backed up out of range of my conquest, and he's like, okay, your conquest threat's 11 with the speed buff. Okay, cool. Let's put down the thing. Okay, I'm gonna stay out of 11. And he like goes there, and then he like goes to do something else, and I was like, my Ulans charge 13 inches, right? And he's like, oh, right. So I'm just gonna die next turn. I'm like, absolutely, you are. So we kind of like just talk about that. Like it's not, you can stop games in the middle and be like, well, let's like, why did you do this positioning move? And we can work on that. like kind of on the fly while you're playing, rather than being like, well, that was dumb, I'm gonna kill you.
Now, when you guys are training, is it important to have the sort of like training buddies thing where outside of having the house like that, is it really good to have one or two people that you can train against, like you're talking about, where you just stop the game and go, okay, that's really dumb, why did you do that? Or is it better to just get more competitive games in?
No, I think, well, you're playing competitive lists, so by nature you're going to have a competitive game, and like in that training scenario, you want to test your list to its fullest potential, so you want to play with the mindset that you're trying to win and you're trying to go for the throat, but at the same time you will try to be like, okay, I'm gonna not feat here and see what happens, and then be like, well, that was a terrible mistake, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But more than, you want the players to be like people that you trust and you trust to give you proper feedback and real feedback.
Mm-hmm.
You want them to tell you the truth about, like, was that a good play? Was this a good idea? Was this a good list? That kind of thing. And you want that feedback. So, like, you know, people do play it close to the vest sometimes, like I said, at cons, but like these people need to be completely open with you about how you're playing, how your lists, things you can do to improve. And those are the people that you want the feedback from. And it's just, you need constant feedback. You don't want them to just be like, yep, I think your list is bad.
Yeah, you need actual
just be like,
feedback.
Yeah, just be like, well, like, why? Well, I like don't play. I think you have one too many heavies in there because of this. You could do this instead. Blah blah blah. It's endless. It's an endless array of ideas that can help. So it's just those kind of people. Those are what you want.
Sorry, we have a question from the board.
We have a couple questions from the board.
Oh, bring it.
Baron von Echo was wondering, for people who are in a meta that doesn't necessarily have a group of super skilled players, but want to get better to the point where they could go to these national events, what would you recommend, Bubba, that they do to kind of push themselves?
Read War Room all the time. Like, when you go take a poop, read War Room. I'm not joking.
Yep.
When you go, like everyone goes to the bathroom and they're on their phone or they read a book or whatever. I have Guinness Book of World Records in my bathroom, whatever. Read War Room so that you know your cards and you know all your enemies' cards, for the most part. Model knowledge is, like, one of the biggest things. Like, if you know what your opponent's crap does and you can play your turn knowing what he can and cannot do to you, that's such a huge deal. The other thing, like, and that's a pretty simple thing, right? Going to take a poop and reading War Room, that's pretty simple.
Yep.
That doesn't require a lot of skill.
Nope.
The other thing is, like, play games. Just play games. You can't be like, well, I wanna do this and go to this next step, and you'd be like, well, Baron von Echo, how many games do you play a week? Well, one on Mondays at the Barley Mow, right? So like that's not gonna work. Like, you got to play some games, and just push yourself. Like, don't be scared to play against Haley 2 or all the bullshit out there. Like, play against it and be like,
Play into bad matchups.
yeah, play in the bad matchups.
Yeah.
And then talk to your opponent. Be like, Will, your awesome list. Oh, just kick the shit out of me again. Like just be like, what did I do wrong? And Will probably be like, well, fuck you. But he might be like, well, like, you should stop moving your caster here so that I'll kill him.
I will say one thing about the Barley Mow meta. None of us are ever afraid to tell our other person where they fucked up.
Oh yeah.
So we have one more question from the boards, and then
Going to cons is really helpful too.
Right. And local
If
tournaments.
you ever want to make WTC, and you apply and you have not been to an American con, you're pretty fucked.
Yeah. Somebody would also like to know, what is the best Legion of Steelcaster?
Well, I will say a Rusk one.
Okay.
But I am biased. The Rusk one is my favorite caster. I'm pretty sure a Rusk 2 just runs it better. But I think there's a Rusk 1, a Rusk 2, Strakov 2, and Old Witch 2, and Zerkova 1. So 5. I think there's 5 really good casters for Legion of Steel in Khador. You can play any of those 5, and I think you'll have a good time. Zerkova 1 requires the most skill, though.
That's why I lose so much with it, but I'm really enjoying it.
If you want to push,
it's so good.
If you want to push yourself and be a really, really good Khador player, play like 100 games with Zerkova 1, and you will just do bad things to people after those 100 games because she is so fucking good, but so hard to play. And you'll just be so far above people that you'll be like, I can just do whatever I want. And then if you play like a shittier caster that doesn't require skill, oh, you're going to feel like a god.
Without giving away what you guys are playing, obviously, because the list lock hasn't happened yet, and I'm sure you don't want that knowledge to be public.
I will absolutely not talk about that.
That's exactly it. What are the boogeyman matchups for you guys though? When you're thinking about them right now, and it can be the general Canadian WTC team. What are the themes that are scary to you guys? The casters that are scary to you guys, and tell us, how you sort of deal with. You've already told us. I mean, basically play into them and figure out. But what are they right now in the greater meta?
Again, I think this is a North American question. Because I bet you Europeans would give you a completely different answer.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of what we already know. Ghost Fleet is really scary. Haley 2 in heavy metal is really scary. Khador in any of the 3 themes is really scary. I think that the Scorn Winds tier is actually really, really good. The Derp Turtle is amazing. That thing is like a god. I think Rhett can, like, Virus 2 is still a thing, even though I haven't seen him much lately. Virus 2 is very strong in the Jack tier. So it's just kind of like, to answer your question, like what you guys probably already know. The things that you guys are kind of scared of up there, like Ostrom Bunnies is amazing. Like, so like those are the things we have to plan for. And while we're not like not all scared of them, some of us are like, well, I don't want to play that. I don't want to play that. So it's just kind of to dodge the odd thing here and there. So yeah.
Last question to sort of end this section of the evening is tell us about the upcoming fundraiser tournament.
Sweet. So August 26th, whatever the hell that Saturday is, we're having a 5-man fundraiser tournament. Five teams of 5 guys, sorry, or ladies. It's in Guelph, Ontario, at the Dragon, where we held it last year. We have space for 16 teams, I think. We're at like 11 right now. I can't remember exactly. So there is room if you guys want to bring a team from somewhere. It's going to be super awesome. All the WTC players are split up on different teams. So like I'm helming a team of hilarious scrubs whom I love very much, and one person on my team that I hate. International War Machine superstar Jeffrey Chua is on my team though. So you guys are all fucked because that guy's the best Khador player I know. And so it's gonna be really sweet. So we split all the WTC players up just to kind of mix it up. So we're not like, okay, well the 2 WTC teams are gonna like fuck you. So like anybody can win this. It's completely open. Like we have no idea what's gonna happen. But we're gonna have a raffle there. We're gonna have we did like it sounds childish a bit. We did like a little bake sale last year, and it was actually like crazy successful. It made a bunch of money. So we're doing that again with some of the wives of players have agreed to bake us a bunch of stuff. We're gonna do like lunch and that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's like $150 per team, a little higher than normal, but again, it's a fundraiser for the team, trying to offset the ridiculous cost of flying to Europe. We'll have all the swag on sale, like the measuring sticks and that kind of stuff will be there. You do have to be there to buy them, unfortunately, but you can contact Chris Orr if you want them. I'm sure he'd love some more emails about that kind of crap.
I would highly suggest the extended control sticks, the longer ones starting at 11 inches. They are so useful.
So we have like a lot of people have like the 4-inch to 10-inch measuring sticks. We have 11-inch to 14-inch for sale that are all emblazoned in the Team Canada stuff. Yeah. They look really, really good in either red or white. Mm-hmm. Or finally gave me my set last weekend after like 3 months of me asking them for them. And they're amazing. So those are pretty rare too. 11 to 14. It's pretty awesome to just measure a charge at like 12 inches and just be like, boop, there it goes.
I use mine for control areas all the time. To check control area, just be able to grab that is so good.
Yeah, Legion players love them for their really long charges.
Yeah, I use them for Ostrom's feet turn. It's, hit that button. It's time for us to get a little bit of tonight's focus, we're going to talk about arm skew, because the reason why this came up is we've been dealing with a lot of Khador players in our meta. Now, what's funny is it seems like all of a sudden there aren't that many Khador players. There's been a lot of quick switches to Grimkin in the last little while. But arm skew has become kind of a thing. Not only do we have a lot of Khador players, but we're finding arm skew is starting to carry into other factions as well.
Well, with stuff like heavy metal and Signar and stuff like that, it's really dealing with massive amounts of armor is a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing, especially if that armor can be raised yet another notch, or they've
Several
got,
notches.
say, 36 boxes on top of all of that. So
34.
34, whatever. It seems like 30,000 when all is said and done.
It's just the battle engine.
Just the battle engine, yeah.
Well, that's 38. That's a whole different thing.
What, you don't have 40? Wow.
So, didn't the Mercs get 40?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a bit about that. So we can go around the table. We could talk about it in different ways, but let's talk about why this is so difficult. Jason, you've been trying to crack armor for a little while. You've been playing Crix, and with Ghost Fleet, you didn't feel like you had...
Ghost Fleet, I just didn't really enjoy playing. I don't enjoy the style of Ghost Fleet.
But
it's a great list, and I think it's really good indicator, but I just didn't...
But it didn't click for you, and that's fine, and
Yep.
that's what the game's really about. You don't want to play a list that just doesn't click
Yeah,
with
it
you,
just
even if it is super amazing balls awesome.
Yep.
So, but you were having trouble cracking armor with your alternate lists other than Ghost Fleet, and finally you got your...
Texas has a really hard time into...
So what was it that, like, why was it so hard? What was it that made it so difficult for you to handle it?
The big thing for me was that the giant armor Harkovich skew. I played it against George and a couple other Khador players a couple times, and basically I was running Satixis at the time, and they just run trample up into your face, and if you don't get an alpha, you just can't damage them. Harkovich he feats, and your dice off 12, and if you can't get a charge, then you're not gonna swing any damage. So it's just really hard to deal with that. Crix, I think, has better tools for that now, especially with Dark Host. But in the past, it was definitely an issue.
Oh, I had the same problem with Gun Bunnies, because Gun Bunnies at POW 12, even with 3 dice, I just could not make the turnover to get enough damage, especially with the spread. Most Khador players were good enough to throw up a few clouds and feed me a model.
Exactly.
And I still couldn't, totally annihilate them within the round. So I just was not able to get enough out of each round. I'd have to figure out an assassination vector. Ignore the jacks. And assassinate instead. So George, you had a chance to play Khador quite a bit over the last couple of months. How did you feel like playing? And you played armor skew almost, and when you were playing Scorn, you went the same direction. What was sort of your boogeyman matchups, and what did you not look forward to when you were playing that style of game?
Well, generally when I was playing, I had 2 lists, one that could handle armor and one that couldn't. And sometimes I worried that meant that I was always sort of pigeonholed into a list. But my answer traditionally, and this is the same thing I've done in Khador, in Scorn, Convergence, Grimkin, all of them, is I always have a list with big, powerful hitting Jacks or Warbeasts. And that's how I have always answered it, as opposed to doing something like debuffing, which some lists do, or having, precision strikes that, can take out a Cortex so that it sort of neuters the heavy armor. It's still there. You still might have to chew through it, but it's not doing anything to you. My answer was always, well, if you bring big meaty things, I can just bring big meaty things and hit hard.
So you just countered hamburger with hamburger, basically. Yes. Going over to Bubba, because this is probably the, where we're going to learn something.
Not from me. Not
from us. Bubba, you've played a ton of armor skew. You know how this rolls over and how this works. What are the best solutions for those players that are just beating their heads against the Harkovich meat mountain? What is your suggestion to them?
It's to one of 2 things. Try and beat them on scenario, which means you focus on a few of the jacks and you just leave everything else alone. And you're like, I'm just going to kill these few models and try to race to a scenario victory, which is easier and more difficult than it sounds, for lack of a better word. Like, you need a really good eye for what's going on the table, like 2 or 3 turns ahead of time, which can be difficult to predict, but it is an option. The other thing is just kill Harkovich. If he's standing next to a jack, he's 16-18, but if he's not, for whatever reason, he is far more killable. He's only a 14-16. He's got 18 boxes, so like, he will die. Now, I will say all this with, and I've heard it from a lot of people, especially Europeans, and you guys are saying the same thing, is why, like, I can't beat this Harkovich jack spam list. And I'll tell you this, and you can ask my WTC teammates, they will agree, and lots of other like really good players will agree. Harkovich jack spam is not the scary jack spam. Karchev jack spam is far scarier. It hits way harder. Well, it threats less initially, like Warpath's really good. Also, guess what you can't do? Ever kill Karchev. So, like, he can just bully the board himself. And, like, late game, maybe you make it to late game against Harkovich, and you're like, well, I can just try and kill you. Late game against Karchev, you're like, well, I lose.
Yeah, because you've still got a Karchev on the board.
Yeah. Like, Karchev jack spam is just, it's just straight better. Like, if, let me put it this way, and I'll say it. Harkovich jack spam, not even on my radar for WTC.
Wow.
So what's to move? We only deal with Harkovich a lot because that's what 2 of our regular players throw at us.
Yeah.
So what are the
whoever they are, both of them, tell them to play Karchev.
So what are the boogeymen for the Karchev jack spam lists? What are the, to go? We don't have to go through every single faction, but like, what are a few of the cool casters that deal with that well?
I think Dark Host is really good with that. Like a Scar Dark Host it's incredibly effective, or like a Gatsby too. Either of the Arusks in Legion of Steel, very strong for what George mentioned. Precision Strike can also toss out Battle Lust. Excellent beer choice there, Jason. To just pick away and cripple things as you want. Also, knockdowns are super strong. Like a Ret, Double Sentinel spam, really strong. Anything with Weapon Masters, of course, is what you're looking to get the job done against the jack spam. If you can back that up with any kind of Cloud Wall or denial of charging or running, also really strong. Again, Jason mentioned that you need to get an alpha. A Cloud Wall will obviously allow you to do that. Mm-hmm. So a combination of those things. Every faction's got little bits and pieces of that. Or anything that can just kill Harkovich is great. So, yeah. Weapon Masters are good.
Or I'll just let anybody know who's going after Harkovich. If you can figure out a way to mind control Behemoth, Harkovich is dead. Because Behemoth steps away from Harkovich, because almost always that's who Harkovich is cuddling. And then
a mistake.
Those Weapon Master strikes to the face are not good.
Like a Machine Wraith?
Yeah, like Machine Wraith. Goddamn Ghost Fleet.
Harkovich should always cuddle up to a Devastator.
Isn't that Behemoth a character jack?
Yeah.
Yep, you can now mind control.
Oh, you can mind control characters. Old rules. Let's talk about the change in the 2017 scenarios now that we have scenarios that are dependent on having solos and units. Mm-hmm. Does this change the game at all? Does this mean the scenario game is stronger now against heavy jack spam? What do you guys think?
Harkovich can score any zone he damn well wants, even though he's a jack, because he's a warcaster.
No, understandably, but I mean, let's put him aside. Do the scenarios change that game?
Yeah, well, I think the reduction to 5 points makes it just that little bit easier to play the scenario game. The other thing is, with most jack spams, you have very little in the way of infantry, so they can contest all day long, but they're not going up on points if you happen to luck into something with a lot of round zones. And that means that often the problem is not, can I stop him from scoring? The problem is, how do I score?
Right.
and that is often a easier problem. If your opponent can't score on their turn, then you have time to push them out of zones, to throw them around, to somehow get them out of that zone, and then you can do the scoring.
Over to Bubba. What do you think? Does the 2017 versus the 2016, does that change this at all?
So 2017, I think, does help in the matchup against it, because in 2016, sorry, it does and it doesn't. In 2016, if you're playing against it and you just wanted to get to 5 points, all you had to do was get to 5. It didn't matter if they had 2, 3, or 4. As long as you got to 5 first, you were good. You got the win. Now he can just be like, okay, well, you're up to 3. I'll just score 1 here and slow your game down. The Harkovich player will. We'll just talk about Harkovich for the time. I'll just keep referencing that. Whereas it makes it more difficult for him because in 2017 the scenarios are a lot more spread out, which is what Harkovich doesn't really want. Like a jack spam wants to kind of to trundle up in a brick, like traditionally they would. So they don't want to be sending like a 1 jack off to the left or the right here and there to contest a flag or something. They don't want to be doing that. And again, what George mentioned is they are now limited in their scoring. They can't score circles. They can't score flags. Only their caster could do that, or any odd soul like a Forge Seer they bring. And the Forge Seers are not getting up there. It's not happening.
So they take all day to get to the midline.
Yeah. So like if you can pick one of them off, if he's trying to go for a flag, then you can really control that game. And say you're playing on Boobs 2.0. 2 circles and 2 flags. What's the Harkovich jack spam do? Harkovich can score the flag, like that's it, and then he contest circles. So like, it becomes a bit of a mind game there. Like,
hey, my list has that clutch unit of mechanics I run into the zone.
Sure, sure. Go ahead and do that.
They die really quick.
12-12 or 12-13 or something.
Yeah, they just
I think I've killed a lot of them in the last little while.
Oh my god, you've killed so many.
Okay, guys, we're actually going to leave that for today. That is all for this week's focus. There is so much more information. We could go on for days about how to deal with ARMSKU and how to deal with it in tournaments, how to deal with it in casual play, other than just giving your opponent the finger and telling them, I don't want to play anymore. I'm taking my
The
choice
answer
and
is
I'm
to
going
put
home.
Behemoth, the old one, in a sock, and then waiting for them to come out of the door, and then you just
beat the hell
back
out of
the
them.
head.
But it's time for the
Upside free army.
But it's time for the lightning round. So hit that button.
The lightning round.
I have a little news for everybody in case Minty's out there and listening. We need you back, brother.
We need more questions.
What happened was Minty has decided to, looks like, take a break from Facebook, which meant all of my Minty Fresh questions disappeared. I had like 10 of them lined up. But
You'll
they're
have to
all
you'll have
they're
to make
all
sure he emails you
gone.
some more.
I'll have to get him to email me some more. So you can email us. You can message me at the Moose Machine Network or wherever you like. We monitor all of them, their channels.
All them their channel.
So we only have 9 questions tonight because we don't have a Minty Fresh question. That's the way
Not
this
like-
goes.
I could make one up.
But the good news is
I could actually make up a good one.
Georgie Fresh.
no, you don't get to make up anything. That's I mean that way,
Except for rules.
except for rules.
Oh, sweet. I get to make up rules? Bubba, we got some things to do.
So okay, question number 1. I have a magical sword called Doomsayer. Who am I?
Your sword is named Doomsayer.
Doomsayer.
Dr. Doom.
So
I'm going to say Maximus.
no, it is Terminus.
Ah.
Question number
Terminus'
2.
sword is called
What is the threshold of a feral warp wolf?
Bing bong.
Bubba.
9.
It is 9.
That's high.
Question number 3. What 3 hymns do the choir of Menoth sing?
Their effect or their names?
The names.
Ooh.
I can't get.
I'm going to try.
Bing-
Go
Bing
ahead.
bong.
Oh, it's Bubba.
The hymn of battle, the hymn of shielding, and the hymn of protection. I don't know.
It's Passage. The
Passage.
third one is
I knew Passage was
I'll
one
give you
of them.
2. I'll give you 2 points for that. Bubba's at 3. Question number 4. What is the P+S of the corollaries bash?
Ding dong.
Go, George.
It's 8, isn't it?
No, it's 6.
Bing bong. Oh, no.
It is
I knew it was 6.
Ah, it should have
It is
given you
only
another
6.
chance.
That's terrible.
I'm just hoping. It's hope. It's purely hope.
It's one of those like it's like the last ditch effort.
Yeah, and
with
you do it, and you're like
the solo with the
It's not
knife.
8.
Beating somebody to death with a shepherd.
Yeah. Question number 5: what does Hakar's ghost shield do?
Bing bong.
Bubba.
For every soul he has on him, he gains a point of armor.
Yep.
Tis true. Question number 6: Magnus 1 or 2? Who am I? I have a mechanical arm that knocks you down.
Bing bong.
Bubba.
Magnus 2.
It's actually both. They both.
Oh.
Trick question.
To be fair, your question was phrased Magnus 1 or
It's
You did say 1 or
trick
2.
It
question.
was a
I'm
trick
an
question.
asshole.
So no matter which.
So
one
you're
you
right.
answer.
You're absolutely right. You get a point. Question number 7: what is the range on the Storm Strider's lightning cannon?
Bing bong.
Bubba.
14.
It is 14.
I was going to say too high.
Question number 8.
Way too fucking high.
It should be 10.
Question number 8: Greylord escorts can be attached to what?
Bing bong.
It actually was George was first on that one.
Doom Reavers.
It is Doom Reavers.
Specifically Doom Reaver Swordsman.
It is specific. I was about to say.
Is there something else, or is this a future proofing?
No, that's why they're called Doom Reaver Swordsman now, because there's going to be a new unit of Doom Reavers eventually.
Ooh.
That's right.
Doom Reaver Horseman.
More jerks.
Maximus's friends.
All right.
Probably like Doom Reaver Halberdiers or something.
Question number 9, which is the final question for this evening and the hardest one I could think of. What is the defense of an Earthborn dire troll next to water?
Bing bong.
Bubba.
14.
It is 14. All right. This week's winner is
The guy who knows things.
Bubba Dalton, King
The
of the
person
North,
we
who
brought on
sits
specifically
there
to know things.
Well, the difference also is that he sits on the shitter all the time and reads the War Room. You've not only will you become a better player, but you'll be able to win the lightning round.
Like it sounds ridiculous, but it's actually like a legitimate thing.
Hey,
And you'll be a
it's-
couple pounds later.
and yeah.
Tim throwing shade at me. Holy fuck.
What is
Totally disagreed. Tim just said, "Get fucked, George."
wow? That's the harshest thing he's ever said.
He goes away for one weekend and
Yeah,
plays.
exactly. Bubba, what did you do to
What
Tim?
did you do to Tim? You took the
It's
nicest.
it's not what I did, it's what Corey did.
Ah.
What stays at the war machine?
What stays is.
cabin.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for this week. We have a little bit of upkeep. First thing, we need the Prime Minister of Life for War Machines regular upkeep, demanded upkeep for us. What's going on in the world of Fraser this week?
Trollblood Scrum is going on right after,
Hopefully
shortly
not
after
right
we're
after.
done, within an hour.
Yeah.
Still, you need to report your games to wmhbattlereporter.com.
They put up a whole bunch of stats this week, and
Yeah.
there's definitely some gulfs and valleys in what is being
Yes.
reported.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody report your stuff. 'Cause-
Don't just report your winning games, people.
Yeah. We're tired of seeing Ghost Fleet on there. I think that's everything for Frasier right now. He'll probably slap me later because I forgot something, but
Don't forget that.
Who wants to be a podcaster?
Oh, that is true.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's still going.
Getting on that.
I would like to win that.
Yeah, then you could be a podcaster.
Yeah,
on a real
could be a
podcast.
real
finally be
Real
legit.
podcast.
Yeah, you could have your own podcast.
What if we all won? Could we go on like some other podcast instead of this one?
I want Jason to win, and we'll just have like it by himself called like Deep Thoughts with Maelstrom. I hate Ghost Fleet. Free models are bullshit. That'll be it.
Plus bonuses all the way.
Everybody, you get a tree off to the left side of the board because you're circle.
Awesome.
Bubba, do you have any events or anything you want to talk about in your area?
Well, the fundraiser, like I talked about. I think the Dragon's having a tournament on September 16th, which is a couple days before we leave for Europe. But hilariously, we're just doing it as champions, not like a regular steamroller, so we can practice our. We're not going to practice our list or anything. We're just going to fuck around, which is probably better.
Yeah.
To just like have some relaxing time. No, all I can say is the WTC will be streaming again. So if Canada manages to get on there, even if it's a ridiculous hour, you guys should watch it. I know some guys got up like really early in Ontario last year to watch us because we played the first round of the second day at like 9 a.m. So it was like 4 a.m. here, and guys got up and watched it. It's really sweet though. So like just, words of encouragement for the guys would be great. We're super pumped to be going. And we want to do well, and we want to make Canada proud again. We got third last year, so we're trying to we're in it to win it. To be perfectly honest, like our goal is to go and win. Like we think we're good enough to win it, so we really want to try to. And we are nervous, of course we are. So any words of encouragement, if you want to give me $5 as well, that'd be super great.
Super great.
It's fucking expensive. If everyone I know in War Machine could give me $5, that'd be fucking hilarious. I would just be like, sweet, there's my flight.
Okay, so we'll just hand this over to George while Jason and I go home, get some ice cream. You posted like 800 events on the OGWC
There was
page.
only 25.
25 events. You've got
Fuck
one.
you, George.
You've got
you.
1 minute.
There's only 5 more to post.
You've got 1 minute.
As Tim the Enchanter once said, "Get fucked, George."
You've got 1 minute.
That's going on a t-shirt.
That's going on a t-shirt. So you've got 1 minute to abbreviate some of the highlights of top events coming up in the next month or so.
So the big one is CCBB. Come on out if you don't have your War Machine weekend invite yet and you want to stomp some noobs, come out to the Ottawa Meta and pick up your ticket. The big things going on in the Ottawa Meta are 2 tournament series. One is between Ottawa and Montreal. So there's going to be 4 tournaments in Ottawa, 4 tournaments in Montreal. The winner of that series gets to pick where the finals happen, whether Ottawa or Montreal. That'll be fun. And
What if I win?
well, then you get to pick where it goes. Not
In my
there, in Ottawa or Montreal.
Not what you said.
The other one that's coming up is the Out of the Box tournament. It is going to be a tournament series where quiet you, where there is 10 places for winning the tournament series. There's going to be 8 tournaments. And then there are 6 places for showing up to game nights because this is a store-based tournament series. And I will let you know there is about, I think it's 2 lists. It's like $500 worth of models.
God damn.
And that's over and above the like the money that we take in for prizes.
Right.
Like that is being donated.
Cool.
For that series. So there's some.
So there's
big
like
prizes.
and then there's another million things coming up, which will.
Oh, all the other stuff is like the release events, the longest night, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, and we'll tell you more about that as the weeks continue. Stay tuned.
So jealous.
So many events, and
What, Fergus doesn't have a thriving meta?
Before I go, I want to remind everybody that there is the Ottawa Gatineau painting competition is coming up in October.
Mm-hmm.
We'll repost that on our page. The guys from that kind of remind everybody on a weekly basis, and I try to share that to make sure. Come on out. It's a super fun event, and the guys like Jean and those guys are just amazing to hang out with, and you'll learn a lot of really, really cool stuff.
And see some amazingly painted models.
Do you think if I brought my army for WC up there, each one of those guys could paint like one model and then it would be done?
It would be done if you just
Well, what we need to do at one of our tournaments is set up a speed painting thing.
Well, that's what
Where during one round, everybody takes one of Bubba's models and speed paints it in 2 hours.
You got a lot of. Trust me on this one because we had that at MooseCon last year. I ended up with a lot of pink and purple and bright orange and fuck you wills on the bottom of the bases.
I don't think it would be well painted models.
Well, when people caught on to the fact that I just wanted half my circle painted so that it had more than 3 colors on it, they were like, "Yeah, this is true." Okay, so the last thing I want to mention is remember that the Wizards Tower does have they have a lot of models. Go down there and get your models from the Wizards Tower. Remember that in Canada they're the number one place to go for your Magic the Gathering stuff. So yeah, they're great. They keep us with our lights on. They pay for us to be able to go to some of the big events that you guys get to see us at. And as long as you support them, in a way, you're supporting us. So that's how this whole thing works. So support them, and don't forget to subscribe to the Muse on Mini channel. So
get your new Grimkin tokens from Muse because they're awesome.
Yeah, the new Grimkin tokens are out, and that's it for us tonight, guys. That is as far as I'm gonna go. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next week. Dice down.
We made it.
Death Clock Has 60 Minutes is a proud part of the Muse on Minis network. Podcasts go online every Thursday morning. You can watch the show live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't find us, you're doing the internet wrong.